Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another special event from the Long Island Association. Very excited to have a really interesting panel with some terrific guests joining us as we celebrate Black History Month and celebrate all our minority business leaders here on Long Island. I just want to start off, a lot of you may have heard, I made a little bit of news yesterday. I'm going to be stepping down as CEO of the LIA in another 5 weeks or so, but staying on the board with all my colleagues and some of my new colleagues like Luis and Philip, who are joining us on the panel today.
Great.
So we'll be excited to be serving with them. And for those who aren't really familiar, you know, the LIA, believe me, is more than any one person, including myself. We celebrate our 95th anniversary this year. Believe it or not, we incorporated in 1926. Our incorporation papers are on our in our lobby, and really excited. So 5 years from now, we'll be having our 100th anniversary. And just think about how Long Island has developed over the last 95 years, and the LIA has always been a major part of that. And although it's bigger than one person, everybody knows when you have a successful president or a CEO, there has to be a really good number two behind that person. And you all know Matt Cohen. He's been my number two for years in many different capacities. He's awesome. He's great. And LIA will not miss a beat, you know, with Matt involved in all of these events. And everybody loves Matt, and so do I. So Matt, thanks for everything that you do. And we do have a great staff as well. We have a great board. Many of our board members are on this panel today. And as I said, look forward to the next 95 years of the LIA. But there are some things I wanted to share today. You know, the LIA has historically supported efforts to increase our diversity, and even in our priorities, and for years we've included them in our priorities, including our 2021 priorities. We always say we support equality and diversity on Long Island. We speak out against racial steering or racial injustice, segregation, bad speech, and that breeds hatred. And not only because it's the right thing to do, but for a self-interest, you know, for the business community. You don't want a business community with an image in a region that tolerates any of that stuff. So it's very important that the business community speak out on these important issues. You know, and as we try to recover from the pandemic and we build our economy, we will continue to advocate for additional aid for our small businesses, especially our minority businesses, and enhance telecommunications, especially those that help bridge the digital divide that we still have in our state and in our region. And as we honor Black History Month, just 2 weeks ago, we put out a really terrific minority business resource guide. It lists every type of program, agency that makes efforts to assist minority businesses at the federal, state, and local level. And that is on our website, and you can download that as well. And so I want to thank you know, our panelists today, who I'll introduce in a minute, and our Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce and the Long Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as they co-host this event with the LIA. So again, thank you all for participating. We have 4 terrific guests today. They have amazing bios. I'm not going to read them all. It'll take the whole program because our panelists are so distinguished. But I'll just briefly give you a snapshot of the panelists' background, and I'll do that in alphabetical order. So Phil Andrews, he is the president of the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce, New York State's largest African American chamber, and the past president of 100 Black Men of Long Island. He's also the founder of a PA public relations firm. He has served on the board of directors of the Roosevelt Chamber of Commerce and the Hempstead Chamber of Commerce. And he currently serves on the board of directors of the Interfaith Nutrition Network, the IN, who I know is also an LIA member. And as I said, next month, Phil will be joining the LIA board. So Phil, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt.
Next is a dear friend of mine. We go back over 25 years. and that is Teresa Sanders. She has been a C-suite executive for over 20 years as the Urban League of Long Island president and CEO. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management from SUNY Old Westbury and a Master's from NYIT, and is currently completing her doctorate in education at St. John's University. She's an adjunct professor at SUNY Old Westbury, and she serves on the board of Suffolk Community College, Long Island Regional Planning Council, and CDC of Long Island. And in addition, Teresa is the lead coordinator for the State of Black Long Island Equity Council and Research Initiative. And I've been honored to participate in that process over the years. So thank you for joining us today, Teresa. Next up is Wilma Holmes Tootle. Wilma received her bachelor's degree from Tuskegee University, her master's degree from Hofstra University, and a professional diploma in school administration from CW Post. She's a teacher of reading, English, and social studies. She's been a high school dean, and assistant principal, and a principal. She is president currently of W.H. Tootle Consultant Services, which specializes in social, business, and children's etiquette, and co-president of A Better You Consultant Services, which specializes in leadership development coaching. And she's a long-standing member of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Long Island chapter, and is currently the chapter president. So Wilma, thank you very much for joining us today. And then finally, last but not least, is Luis Vasquez. Luis is a true product of Long Island. He grew up in the city of Glen Cove with his family. He graduate of CW Post College with a degree in criminal justice. He's a consultant and co-owner of Casa de Vinos. Casa de Vinos imports and exports, which distributes quality fine wine from Chile and Latin America. I haven't had any Chile fine wine, but Luis, I'm looking forward to a bottle someday. Luis is also the current president of the Long Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, advocating for Hispanic and minority businesses on Long Island. And just most recently, he became the chair of the board for the newly formed National Hispanic Chamber of Commerce on Health in New York City. Like Philip, Luis will be joining the LIA board in March at our annual meeting. And we're really excited because now the LIA will really be inclusive of all of the members of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the African American Chamber of Commerce. So thank you, Luis and Philip, for agreeing to join. And panelists, if we were all in person, you'd hear a nice round of applause for all of your backgrounds. But since we have everybody muted, you don't hear that. So we're going to get right to our questions. And we'll jump around a bit, and I'll try to give everybody equal time. And we will wrap up before 11 o'clock, for those who are watching their times for other meetings. So let's go to my first question. And I'm going to start off with Teresa. And Teresa, I'm going to ask you if you could tell us about your organization and what your role is and how it helps to increase diversity in the Long Island region.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. And thanks, Matt, for having us here today. The Urban League of Long Island is a national civil rights movement organization that was founded over 100 years ago when slaves were freed and migrating to northern cities during the Great Migration period. And affiliates of the National Urban League were established in different cities to provide local services during those transitions. And while all of the affiliates weren't founded around the same time of the Great Migration, many of us came in much later. Urban League of Long Island was established in 1972 and incorporated in 1974. And it was formed by several Grumman Aerospace workers who several were former Tuskegee Airmen, and they found coming back to Long Island to settle their families, they were not being given the job opportunities. And so they established an affiliate of the National Urban League here on Long Island, Urban League of Long Island. We serve Nassau and Suffolk counties with not only direct services, but over the last 5 years, we have now re-engaged in data research and advocacy to help establish laws and policies that can govern the equity that we want to see here on Long Island. And so that's our background in history. We are very excited. When you mentioned the amount of years we've known each other, Kevin, I had to laugh because I'm like, I'm only 25. Okay, I'm keeping myself.
Yes, we met in kindergarten, Teresa.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Philip, can you tell us a little bit about the African American Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, the African American Chamber of Commerce, Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce is a regional chamber of commerce. And when we founded the organization in 2010, we thought to put the original geographical tract of Long Island, Brooklyn, and Queens, that was Long Island. So we have since then, we have been doing a lot of diversity initiatives. We did the first regional chamber development conference in the history of Long Island. We brought the Portuguese chamber, we brought people from the Islamic chamber to build the chambers of commerce. We feel that you cannot have strong businesses without strong chambers of commerce. And for many years, in my past position, we worked with the Jewish Relations Council of Long Island, and we go to the diversity training with them. And when I came over to the chamber, I brought that same thing. Every year we send 2 members with the Jewish community, and we get every ethnic group on Long Island to be trained together. So we are a big supporter of diversity because we believe that diversity brings talent. It helps downtowns throughout Long Island. And we really want to work together to increase diversity, NWBE utilization and certification. We have served on the county executive committee for 2 consecutive administrations, and we are a leader in that area of NWBE utilization.
Well, terrific. Yeah, thank you, Phil. Wilma, can you tell us a little bit about your business as well?
Good morning, Kevin. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm just so pleased to be included on this august panel. In terms of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, the organization was founded in 1981 in New York City, and we're very proud of the mission of the organization, which is to advocate on behalf of Black women and girls to promote leadership development and gender equity in the areas of health, education, and economic empowerment. Our mission is important to us, and because that is our mission, we always advocate on behalf of our core values, and they are gender equity, inclusion, respect, social and racial justice, all of those concepts that certainly are very much aligned with the push to diversify and the push to be included in the region and in society. Because of our mission, we focus certainly on health, education, and economic empowerment, but we also focus on strategic alliances and civic engagement. That's how we are able to promote our mission through our programming in each of the areas. And as the program unfolds, I will talk about our specific programming initiatives under each area, which will probably give a better sense of what we do. We're proud of the fact that we are among in Long Island, and we do programming in both Nassau and Suffolk, but we're among the 61 chapters nationally and the 2,800 members, all focused on the mission of leadership development and empowerment.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you, Wilma. And Luis, can you tell us a little bit about the Long Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the appointment in the LIA, Kevin, and I want to wish you and your family a lot of luck in your new endeavors. Thank you.
Thanks, Luis.
Thank you and Matt for your friendship throughout the years, for your support. The Long Island Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was established in 1988, and the idea was a group of Hispanic Latinos got together and they said they needed some representation in the business here in Long Island. So they got together and the idea was to advocate for Latinos in their communities and to develop and to start businesses. A lot of the individuals who were in business were not connected with corporate world and the mainstream. So the idea was to start it, to get together, to have meetings, advocate, network, be able to represent corporate America and be able to advocate and say, oh, where are we on the table when it comes down to sitting down and getting a piece of the pie when it comes to businesses. We've been around for about over 30 years, and we're very proud to represent the Latino minority community here in Long Island. Thank you.
Great. Thank you,
Okay.
Luis, and look forward to having you on the LIA board soon. Next up, sort of a tough question, and I'm going to combine two of them. On Long Island, what could businesses be doing more to promote diversity? And then what are some of the challenges of diversity in the workplace? So sort of a two-part question, if we could talk about what businesses, what the challenges are, and then what businesses can be doing about it. And let's start off with Philip this time.
Well, with my prior experience being former president of a Black Public Relations Society, what we found out is that in the C-suite, in the highest levels where the decisions are made. So the chief executive officer, when they come on board, then it usually trickles down through the organization. But we know that there are explicit biases in many people, and we have to train for that. And I believe ability is all up and down the corporation. I've once heard Ken Chenault say, hey, you may be looking for good advice 2 levels down, and that person may be able to tell you who you could trust in your organization. So leadership is really something that could be developed and potential. Give you one quick story. There was a lady working for Southwest Airlines, and she was an administrative person. And she went to the CEO. He couldn't solve a problem, and she was able to solve the problem. Many years later, she became the CEO of Southwest Airlines.
Great story. Great story. Wilma?
Yes, Kevin, thank you for this. And thank you for starting off the information about me with my background in teaching, because that's from where I will start. Philip mentioned that, but it's really very important, I think, for businesses to have education and training programs. Now, there are programs and there are programs. Of course, I'm pretty sure the other panelists know more than I do which businesses have programs, what kinds of training they offer, but it's not just the training. It's not just the fact that they have individuals who may look like me or everybody else. It's the inclusion piece that I think is most important, because you can train all day, you can have every model, but unless and until businesses truly embrace the concept of inclusion, and that is providing for their employees an atmosphere of value and respect. And it has to be more than just a training program. It has to be the institutional practices. It has to start with hiring. It has to trickle down to, yes, you have them hired, but it has to be a part of ongoing staff development. So all of these, I think, are things that businesses could do. And of course, we know the challenges. There are barriers to communication. There are differences and conflicts in ageism, but quality programs and leaders, as Phil said, leaders who embrace the concept make the difference.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Luis?
Yeah, I think the businesses should be doing more when it comes down to be able to inclusion, to be able to say, okay, we have businesses that are small businesses in Long Island, minority, Latinos. How do we get them to work with us? How do we include them? How do we be able to give them contracts? How do we include them in the whole planning of the succession of the Long Island region? And that's basically it. An example is basically being part of the LIA board. Thanks to you and your board, and come back home and be able to say, all right, where's the Louis businesses? Where are the fields? Where are they, and what can they contribute? And I think that's the beginning when it comes out. These businesses should be more open-minded to minorities and their expertise, especially with the Latino community when it comes to demographics are growing very rapidly. So we're almost 20% of the population in the United States, but we want to be able to say, okay, how can we contribute? How can we work together? Being Spanish, being Latino represents 20 countries, like 20 Hispanic American countries. We're talking Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, South America, Central America, and Europe, which is Spain. So we, even though we're similar, we're together, but at the same time we have our differences. But we have to learn about each other, and then we have to educate. So it's a challenge right there, the fact that everybody assumes that everybody's a Puerto Rican or Mexican or Salvadorian, Central American. Really, we have to make sure that we understand the sensitivity of our Latino communities. We have to understand our culture with our own culture. And we have to say, okay, not everybody's a Mexican or Puerto Rican, not everybody's a Salvadorian or from Chile. We have differences, we have different experiences, and those experiences can be well used if we are tapped into and we're saying, okay, Mr. Vasquez, Louis, what are your experiences? And I'll say, okay, from Dominican Republic, we're able to explain our differences, to share our culture. And that would be one of the things how the businesses can help open your minds and say, okay, let's give it an opportunity. But the challenge is basically almost the same thing. You have to be able to say, where are the economic pockets that we need help? And where is the planning that we say, where are we going to be able to allocate so much funding or so much so we can make sure that this community is educated, this community is part of the community, and we want them to contribute instead of being a drag or looked at as a discriminatory group, which is not the case. And I think discrimination happens everywhere, but I think we can do something about it once the businesses are aware of it and we start really making those challenges real. That's my opinion.
Yeah, hey, that was a great answer, Luis. And you've just now educated me, and I'm sure others, and sensitized me to a very important issue that there is diversity within, just the Hispanic and Latino community as well. You can't just lump everybody into sort of one category and differences. So, thank you for doing that. Yeah. If I just learned that today, I feel like I've learned something. So thank you for sharing. Teresa.
Hey,
Your thoughts.
some of it, I think, in order for us to make this work, is that we have to create real solid pipelines, just like in any other system. A kid gets a certain age and they go to school. All kids go to school. It has to be a natural pipeline for access and inclusion when it comes to businesses and being able to get our young people to see what career paths they can follow on Long Island. It's challenging because geographically, everything is so spread out, but we have to figure out how do we get that information into the K through 12 system so that more children and diverse amounts of children are exposed to the opportunities that exist for employment and career paths on Long Island. One of the challenges we have, and I think that the corporations and businesses have, is that it's always approached as a program. Diversity and inclusion is a lifestyle. It is not a program that you pick up and you run for 6 to 12 months, and then you put it away and you pick it up again when things get hot. It is a lifestyle. And part of what we know exists on Long Island is that we live so separate. Our communities are so segregated. There's very few opportunities for us to overlap, to get to know each other. We're learning things about each other when we hit our 50s, 60s, and 70s, that we should have learned through a K through 12 process, but our schools are segregated. So very often people that are of diverse cultures don't even get to mix in K through 12 settings, more or less when they finally do get a job and go to work. So we've got our challenges, but we have to approach this as though this is a lifestyle change. It's not a program. It's something we want to incorporate and we want to do, because financially, although it has its moral implications of the right thing to do, on a financial level, we are losing, and we've said this in a dated report, we are losing $24 billion a year because of racial inequities on Long Island. That impacts all of us. It's not just the Black community or the Latinx community. It's all of us that are losing out on economic equity because we have these systems that are so racially segregated.
Yeah, Teresa, could you just expand upon that a little bit more? I remember I participated in the presentation of that report, but for people who maybe aren't familiar with it. So what do you mean when you say we're actually losing money by not being and not being inclusive and being more diverse?
Yeah, and Kevin, about 5 years ago when we embarked on researching the data of what is the real racial and economic conditions on Long Island, and the State of Black Long Island Equity Council came up with a data profile for Nassau and Suffolk counties, and they evaluated all of our systems, education, health, housing, justice. It looked at all of those, and it put a number on how much inequity is costing the entire region, not just one community, but all of us. And how did we get to $24 billion? Well, for every kid that's undereducated, that kid's going to grow into an adult that will never get a living wage job. That kid will never be able to buy a home and pay taxes. That kid can't take his family out to the local restaurants or the pizzeria to eat. That kid will never be able to grow into the type of an adult that can sow financially back into their community. So what we're missing is that one kid and all of his legacy behind him that will not be able to support the gross domestic products that are the foundation of our communities, the delis, getting your Starbucks or whatever it is, getting your nails done, your hair done, all of those things. When you are financially strapped, you can engage and participate. That number extrapolates, and when you times it by the amount of kids in Black and brown communities that are being undereducated, that's how we got to that $24 billion.
Hey, that's terrific. And you probably did, but get that to Matt. And Matt, we should post that study on our website as well, because it, I think more people should see it.
Kevin, may I do a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Wilma.
As an add-on to something that Teresa said, I just want to point out how NCBW is addressing that one aspect. We talked about our platform being health, education, and economic empowerment. In our focus on education, our national organization has set for the agenda two very key aspects. One is mentoring. Every chapter is encouraged to have a mentoring program. And two is emphasis on STEM and STEAM, and that's science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. What we do with our mentoring programs, starting with, we start in the middle school, but in some chapters across the country, in the elementary schools, is we start with the young, as Teresa said, striving to empower them to look at careers in STEM and STEAM, because we know that those are the careers that are on the market now. We know that those are the careers that will reap great financial rewards. We know that those are the careers that are in demand. So we start with that with our young people, and we build that into our regular programming. And we do understand one thing: schools are wonderful. Schools can't do everything. And that is why organizations like ours and others, we build alliances with these other institutions so that we can supplement what they may not get on one level.
Terrific. Thank you. Yesterday when Newsday interviewed me, for my decision, they asked me to look back at the last 10 years and some of the things that I was, most proud of. And one of the things I told them was that the LIA now, in its we have the most diverse board we've ever had in our 95-year history. We have more women and more people of color than ever before. But how do we get more businesses and ensure that more minorities serve in C-suite positions and/or on boards? Phil, you want to take that one first?
Oh, yes. One of the things that we do is we have to advocate. Many part of our suite is advocacy. We believe that advocacy makes a difference, and we also fundamentally believe that corporations in America that support diversity make more money. But we don't want them to do the thing because it makes more money. We want them to do the thing because it's the right thing to do. So one of the things is we have to let the corporations know, let society know that advocacy is important and diversity is important. And I'm just proud of Long Island, where it's become over the years. We got a lot of talk around MWBE utilization, working together. Long Island is a very unique community. We have 80 cross chambers of commerce across Nassau County and about 40 across Suffolk, and we are a founding member of the Suffolk County. So I think we actually are a very unique community, and we are positioned to work together to come out this pandemic by continually to focus on diversity.
Great, thanks. Luis, you have any thoughts on how do we increase the amount of C-suite and or board positions for minorities?
Yeah, I think it's basically, it comes from the top. It comes from the succession plans. It comes when we're planning on the regional level, when corporations want to come into our area and they meet with the LIAs, with the chambers, or with the community groups, or the county executives, with the senators. I mean, everybody on top should be able to say, are you including the community there? Are you including the whole community, which is all of us together? And I think that's basically the part, because once you start planning, and you start asking the questions, since we're not there, we're not gonna say, can we be part of? We'll only become part of when we're needed on statistics, when we're needed to be able to come up with some kind of a plan, but not in the planning stages where we should be. So I think a lot of it has to do on the executive level, on top governments, on top corporations. Everyone should be able to say, how do we include, like you're asking right now at the LIA, how can we include Latinos, minorities, African Americans, Asian? The idea is to look at the table and how we can get it diverse. And so if the LIA is a very diverse, so basically we have to emulate that to the corporate world, to the government, and let them know. So I know the negotiations go on top. It comes from the executives. So I think the executives have to be more conscious of the table, who's around the table, and how we can be included in that table. That's my opinion.
Great, thank you. Teresa, you have some thoughts on how do we increase the amount of C-suite officers and board members?
Yeah, I piggybacking off of what Luis just said. It's about when you get to that level, it's the leadership of these organizations that determine who the next level of leadership is going to be. Same way that you have done with the LIA, Kevin. A lot of your conversations with your board and who you're meeting and recommendations in terms of who should join the board, that's leadership. And unless you have leadership that's in the community, engaged in the community, that gets to meet with us and see us as key partners in the development of this region, it's going to be very difficult to pipeline people into board positions that don't look like the current sitting board members, unless you've got someone that's an advocate from your agency. And your model of advocacy, Kevin, has been to be out here in the community. And it's not easy. The reality is that even on the flip side, you could be referring people of color and women and all of these, diverse groups, LGBT, into your, to make recommendations to join your boards. And the majority may not want those people at the table because they look at life through a different lens that is more inclusive. But again, that's why I keep going back to, we have to be able to make our arguments, for the lack of a better word, more even. Yes, it's social. It's the moral thing to do. You do it in good faith to include people. But yes, for some people, they will only understand an economic conversation. And we've got to utilize the data to get to those people too, to say, do you know how much money you're losing? And the real funny story is when we came out with that report, and you remember, Kevin, because we did a presentation and people were in an uproar, like, how did you get to $24 billion? They could not believe it. They were like, we could not be losing this amount of money. And when they sit down, and I will share the report for you to post, when you go through the data and you see just how real this is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, all right, diversity and inclusion should be something I should be doing. If I don't morally believe in it, it is the economically right thing to do, because if I lift the lowest level of boats, I don't know the real acronym in this story, but if I rise that tide, all boats are going to rise. So it's in our best interest to improve the conditions of those that are economically struggling, because it'll improve the conditions of everybody.
Great, terrific. Wilma, you have something to add?
Just one piece, because they've all talked about leadership and management. Let me just add the accountability piece, and that is leaders, managers, and individuals on the top, as you say, must be held accountable. And that is why in our strategic partnerships and alliances, we appreciate, applaud, and depend on the people like the Teresa Saunders of Urban League, because when they come out with these reports, they do research, they make an impact for us. My statement is accountability. We have to hold them accountable.
Got it. You know, a common theme, and since we are a business organization, I'm going to come at this from a business perspective. So we all agree it's the right thing to do, you know, morally, socially, politically, you know, but at the end of the day, business is a business. They're there to make a profit. And both Philip and Teresa, you both alluded to that increasing your diversity and being a more inclusive company can actually drive economic growth. Can you give us, a little bit of, your thoughts on that and how that happens? And do we have data on that? Because businesses always, at the end of the day, look at their bottom line. They want to do the right thing, but they're looking at the bottom line. So how do we convince more businesses, being a more inclusive organization, being a more diverse organization, will actually increase their bottom line? Philip?
Well, one of the things I believe is the African American community is a market. You know, we spend a lot of dollars and we kind of like educate them. Just recently, we had a national bank partner with the Long Island African American Chamber of Commerce Customs Bank. They saw our work and how committed we were. And they said, well, not only are we going to partner with you to apply the loan, but we're going to put something back into the Chamber of Commerce, a small percent of every loan that's processed. Now, about $3 million of payment already. So I think we also are a viable market. The African Americans is richer than some countries around the world in America. So we know that we also say that we have something to give, and we also influence our market to the companies that do the right thing by doing business with us. So I think it's a twofold thing.
Got it. Wilma?
Yeah, this is when I think our advocacy piece kicks in. In our public policy campaign, we talk about media campaigns, we talk about public speaking, we talk about filing briefs, doing position papers. I think that one way to make them accountable again is to keep on them and to use those tools and those tactics of advocacy to hold them accountable by being an in-your-face group of people always.
Got it. Luis?
Yeah, I think it's basically, we contribute almost 700 billion into the economy as a Latino market. And like I was mentioning before, Latino market expands to all these countries that I spoke earlier, but also extends to their native country, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Salvador. Those are extended the economy where we can say, look, when you hire someone from our community, you hire somebody from our Latino, it brings in the language culture, it brings in diversity, it brings in innovation, it brings in, because it's a different perspective. It's a whole community out there that to some degree is being ignored, but yet contributes almost $1 trillion into the economy. It's not by luck. It's something a hardworking community in the Hispanic and Brown community, hardworking communities that has to be given an opportunity to say, look, we're here, we contribute to the economy, we can expand the economy, and we can make your companies much more diverse, and we can definitely create a bigger America. I mean, it's a simple process, but very difficult to get accomplished.
It makes sense. It sounds very logical. Teresa, do you have anything to add on this question?
Yeah, Fortune magazine has, documented that the African American community in America has a $1.2 trillion spending power.
Wow.
And so when you look at that kind of spending power, if I was a business owner, I'd want in on that market.
Yep.
So what is it that I need to do as a business owner to incorporate myself into that market? First of all, you need people around your table so that you understand what are the cultural values? How do I communicate with those communities? It's like if I went and I sat in on a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce meeting and some of the dialogue was in Spanish, I'd be asking Luis, okay, so explain to me what they said. It's a learning opportunity. You must engage with other cultures and understand in order for you to do business with them. So when I'm looking at $1.2 trillion, if I was a business owner, I'd be trying to figure out who's on this panel that I could talk to about how do I partner with you? It's partnership. How do I partner with you so that we can engage in this market so that I'm respectful as a business to you? I don't want to do anything that offends you culturally, and how you can then earn respect for my business. And if you look at some of the larger business models and how they've done it, you got Burger King that use rappers, and all of a sudden the Whopper is selling at flying off the charts. These are marketing and business skills. So if a business entity is serious about capitalizing on a certain market, they have to understand who they're talking to, and they have to figure out, how do I partner and engage with them? And on the flip side, for the community, they've got to get something out of this too. So there's a lot of negotiation that needs to go on, and it starts with communication around the table when you're developing these ideas, because it could be a catastrophe like we had. Well, I forgot the clothing store, they had the monkeys on their shirts, and it's weird stuff. If you don't have the right people at your table and somebody's telling you that monkey is a great idea, well, not if you're an African American. So you have to engage in the dialogue, and that's going to be critical for the next level.
Great points by all of you. Thank you. Are there things that the state and local government are doing well to help minority businesses, or are there additional things that our state and local, county and towns can be doing to help local businesses that the LIA could help you advocate for? Any thoughts on that? And let's start with Luis on this one.
Yeah, I think the government could be more. I mean, there's a lot of programs, and one thing I learned as the president of the chamber is basically a lot of programs are out there for minorities, WMBEs and all the programs, but basically a lot of it just doesn't trickle down. And a lot of it could be very confusing with our communities. And when they go apply, I think what we need is more support system within the agencies, within the government, to be able to say, how do we pipeline these programs? How do we make it simpler for these individuals to apply? I mean, when you say you're going to get a loan and it's guaranteed by the government, that loan is not, usually loans are made for people who got money. If you don't have any money and you're starting a business, it's very difficult for an individual to start a business and get a loan. Obviously, startup. What startup? There's supposed to be startup money. There's supposed to be SBA money. It's supposed to be support. All these support systems are really become somewhat of a fallacy. It doesn't really happen. I don't have them really say, well, here's a startup money so you can start your company and then we can trust you doing it. It really doesn't happen. It's a lot of struggle. There's got to be more training. There's got to be more support system in the pipeline, so these individuals can actually. It's almost like going to be a university of business. Let's figure it out that way. If you're able to do this, then you'll be able to get that. But obviously, a lot of individuals go into business because of the dream, and they have a big dream. They have the passion, but they don't have the know-how. You cannot go open up a restaurant if you don't know about. If you're not a chef. You probably open it if you're a cook, but then you realize that when you fell down, when you go 3 years down the line, you say, why are you failing? That's why, for 3 out of 5, 1 out of 5, 3 businesses fail or more. because it should be successful. Not so. I think the government, I think the locals and the organization should be able to, and like I said, partnership, collaborate, and say, why are we failing? Because we're not being successful. You only speak about those who are successful, but then we got 5, 10 new businesses who are not successful. That doesn't help the economy. It's really hurting the economy. That's not helping the Latinos and the African Americans or the brown. It's not helping, but basically it's not there. So when I started the chamber and we started getting individuals, first of all, we don't have the support. So it's hard to have a staff. If you don't have a staff, how are you going to be able to help the community? So it's really economics. Economics doesn't mean, it really has to be dollars make dollars, but we don't have the support system. So obviously, how do we represent our communities if we're not definitely economically strong to say, okay, this is what you have to do. You need an attorney, you need an accountant, you need a consultant, you need a public relations. I mean, obviously that's what we're failing. Obviously we open up businesses, we think we're doing all of this great. It's really not. We're not doing the job we're supposed to be doing. So I think responsibility is on all of us. But every time we try to advocate, there's always an excuse why not. We saw it with the pandemic. We were the Latinos, African, we're all like last on the line. Look at the vaccine. We're still last on the line. It doesn't really matter what the subject is, we're last on the line. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Leadership is supposed to take charge, supposed to educate, supposed to go forward and say, let's get this done. Let's not stop talking. Talking is great. Meeting people is great. But how is our constituency benefiting from all this? So I think more powerful inclusion, support system, pipelines, education, that's I think where the key is.
Thanks, Luis. Philip, thank you, Luis. Philip, are there things that the state and the local governments are doing well, or there's some things that they could be doing that would be more helpful to minority businesses?
Well, one of the things I think we're on track in Long Island. We just recently we embarked upon a disparity study in both counties, and that study is going to put some teeth in the law to say, you know what, a certain amount of business have to be done with minorities. And also, we, as a Chamber of Commerce, we take the approach that we have to access government. We talk to the government. We talk to the governor's office. We talk to local officials. We serve on committees to kind of understand the problems. And one of the things I want to give you an example of what I did recently, there was a problem with a contract in the town of Hempstead. And one of my members came to me and the contract was bidding on so low, it was no possible way that the person could get the job. And I sent a letter on behalf of that person, and he was recommended by the particular agency to get the job because he had commendations from that agency of good work, but he still didn't get the work. But what I did, I sent a letter. The town of Hempstead now is going to consider using local businesses because I advocated with a letter on behalf of that particular situation. So we can make a difference. We need to talk to the government. It's unfair if we don't talk to the government, talk to these agencies, develop relationships, because I think that's the gateway is to get relationships with people, because all things come in and through people.
Got it. Thanks. Wilmer, anything to add on this issue?
No, nothing to add, because both of the gentlemen have really articulated the positions about what the government is doing. I just want to again talk about our mission in the economic platform, because Louise alluded to it. The government can do all these things, but we focus on empowerment. And under our economic platform, we have Sisternomics, and those are all of our economic initiatives whereby we have training programs to empower women and girls, starting from something as simple as financial literacy or finance 101 to home ownership, to building financial wealth. All of this is a part of getting our individuals ready so that they can access the programs and the resources of the government.
Great, thank you. So we have less than 10 minutes left. We're going to go to some questions from our audience. I'll just ask the first one, then I'll ask Matt to help out with some others. But Teresa, I'll ask you, COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted the minority community, as Luis mentioned. Has it similarly disproportionately impacted Long Island minority businesses?
Oh, absolutely, Kevin. While we were struggling, there's an old saying in the movement, if America catches a cold, the minority communities probably have pneumonia. And so COVID has exposed just how delicate, the conditions are for small businesses that serve, minority communities while they were already struggling. This economically impacted them. We had good conversations through the Urban League with some of our financial institutions and had one step up to B&B Bank stepped up to give out $5,000 grants to about 5 small businesses. And they had to, write and justify the expenditures. But, if you were a business that was already economically struggling, you turned around and all of a sudden now you've got to make sure that you have certain protections, not only for your employees that work, but for anyone that may come to your business. Those are added expenses that weren't in the budget. And so we are, and then the rent didn't stop for a lot of these businesses that are renting their space. There wasn't forgiveness from the landlords that you don't have to pay your rent while your business is shut down. So we had real serious challenges. Some of those businesses are still not open. I toured a facility that had just opened in January of last year that was a beauty supply store. Went in a couple of months ago, and the owner was just so frustrated because everything's in there. They have computer systems set up, they had all of the products in the store, but because they could not open now, this business probably will never financially recover. It's sad, Kevin, but we've got to pull together to figure out how we can help. The last thing I'll say is I put 2 links in the chat. One is that $1.2 trillion spending survey, and the other one is that the equity profile for Long Island that Kevin, that you wanted me to give to Matt. So I put it in there for everyone to access.
Very good, Tracy, and much better than I. I could ask a question in the chat room. I don't know how to put an attachment in the chat room. So, great job. Matt, can you consolidate a couple of questions? Is there a common theme with some of the questions from the audience?
Well, we're going to take about 10 seconds. If you have a question, could you please put it in the chat room? So that way we'll then ask it for you.
Do you have any right now, Matt?
Not right now. I see Dr. Stephen Lindo has his hand raised. If you want to start, Stephen, if anyone else has a question, please put it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And thank you, Kevin, for your service at LIA. And thank you for putting this panel together. I just want to say that I've benefited from every one of your panelists, from Miss Tootle, who I love dearly, who has taught me in school, to Miss Teresa Sanders, who is phenomenal and share our mission, to Phil, as well as to Lewis for telling me what not to do when I started my incubator for it to fail. And thankfully these years later. Kevin and Matt, my point is this. I think all the panelists said some fantastic things, and those are all good things to do. Your question about what LIA can do or can help with, this is what I'm suggesting. There's a lot of things that can be done, but there's a now thing that I believe that we can do, especially with your influence for Long Island businesses, and that's called mentoring. I think there's an opportunity for LIA to advocate or push mentoring into these large corporations, middle corporations, and medium-sized corporations. Having been in the industry for 31 years, starting in 1989, I'm the only person of color in a technology company that's white male run, basically, and listening to all of the insensitive lack of diversity comments being made. I think everyone would benefit from having someone mentor them to continue to keep, as Ms. Teresa Saunders says, that pipeline and that pathway going. But it has to be done with intent. It has to be intentional for that. So I'll leave that.
No,
that's my comment.
Stephen, thank you for that. It's a great idea. You're right. You can't just be a press release, a one-time event.
Right.
There has to be a commitment to it. And you're right. It's something I think the LIA can take up. Matt, do we have
Yep.
any other questions? And we need
Yes.
to wrap it up soon.
Yep, I just want to acknowledge also that Islip Town Councilman James O'Connor and Supervisor Angie Carpenter are on, and Angie wrote, please encourage the chambers to reach out to us. We would love to partner. Communication is key. We actually go into the communities to recruit for summer help. So I want
Yeah,
to.
and Angie does a great job. I know I've served with her on efforts to revitalize Central Islip, and Angie's one of the true public leaders that we have on Long Island. So thank you, Angie, for your service.
We have a great question from Mitch Pally, who runs the Long Island Builders Institute. How do we connect the Long Island real estate community with MWBE companies, which are not often seen?
Teresa or Phil? Teresa or
one of the
Phil, you
things-
want to take that?
One of the things I think we need to do is just reach out to the chamber. We meet with a variety of organizations and institutions and to develop the relationships to find out what is needed and how what we have inside our chamber that could be a match for what you're doing on the other side.
And I would also add that the state usually has a list of certified MWBE entities. And if that list could be pulled and sorted according to like the region service area, that'd be a great way. Just send an email, host a Zoom meetup with them so that they can understand what it is that you may want to partner on. Mitch.
I have that is list in my email.
All failed, Mitch.
Thanks. Matt, any others, Matt?
One final question from Liz Uzzo. Is there one actionable item a private sector business can do today? What would that be?
Who wants to take that? Luis, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think what they could do, the sector could do is probably try to educate themselves or try to find out and reach out to a lot of the chambers and the Latino minority communities and figure out what their needs are and how we can work together. I think there's a lot of, it's hard to specifically say, but I think being able to be aware of what's around you, being aware of the communities and being able to say, okay, how can we work together? And I think that's basically a beginning to see what your needs are, what our needs are, what do we have, and how we can collaborate. So I think that would be good. That would be a good start to be able to see how we can all collaborate and what will be the needs of each individual or chamber or organization or community-based organization. Reach out to us. And I think we're going to be here waiting to say thank you for contacting us, and then we do it. I just want to make one thing clear with I don't own Casa de Vino, so there's no more wines available. So I come down from that. So no longer with that company, but that's okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, I get 1,000 coats to get free wine. Don't have it.
Thank you, Louis, and we'll still let you come on the LIA board, even though you can't give me any wine.
That's okay, but I'll bring up more expertise there.
Thank you. I want to just give each panelist, 30 seconds, to just, close with anything they want to say. Wilma?
Yes. You've heard it throughout the hour, but we say this in all of our closing at NCBW Long Island LI, that we will educate, engage, empower, and enact. And I think that is the message that you've heard from all of us today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Phil?
The Long Island Chamber of Commerce, we often say if you don't work with diversity, you disempower yourself, because diversity is a powerful tool. And we are your Long Island 2019 Small Business Champion for 14 counties in downstate New York. We look forward to working with you.
Excellent. Thank you. Teresa?
Yes, diversity and inclusion is a lifestyle. So live out loud. Reach out. You must engage. And we put out information in the chat, most of us as panelists. So please reach out to us.
Thank you, Teresa. Luis, final word?
Yeah, we have a big market, Latino market, minority markets are big markets there. We're here to do business. Like they say, the cliche says, we're open for business. We're open to engage. We're open to be a big, Long Island is a big community, a big family. We definitely have to, we're here with open arms to support, to engage, to collaborate. You name it, we're there. And I want to wish everyone happy and safe, days to come, and hopefully we'll be out of this pandemic soon enough and we'll be able to meet in person.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody. This program is recorded. We'll post it on our website. So if you have any colleagues who you think might want to see it, you can tell them they could go to our website later on today and they'll be able to download it. And remember the minority business resource guide that we put together, that Matt and the team put together, that is also posted on our website. So feel free to get that. And we'll do this again. We keep every program to an hour. I think since we started at 10:03, we're at 11:03 exactly.
Very good.
So thank you all for your participation. Stay safe. Spring is on the way. Hope is on the way. And things are going to get better. And Long Island is going to get better. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.